Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Semeka, Senior Editor for Technology at IndustryWeek. Welcome to our Production Pulse, our bi-weekly live stream where we talk about current issues in manufacturing. And our Editor-in-Chief, Robert Schoenberger, has allowed me to hijack the broadcast this week so we can talk about generative AI. When ChatGPT dominated the headlines in March when the fourth iteration of the software, GPT-4, was made publicly available for everybody to play with. And since then, Industry Week has been inundated with pitches about generative AI and what it could do for manufacturing, but very little about what generative AI is actually doing right now for manufacturing. And there's a big difference, right? So today, to help us figure that out, we're talking to Mauricio Casares. He's the Smart Factory Improvement Manager at Schneider Electric's plant in Lexington, Kentucky. And if you run a plant at Schneider and you want an Industry 4.0 upgrade, Mauricio is the person that gives the green light. So he's ensconced in new manufacturing technology and the right guy to talk to. Mauricio, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Happy to be here. Yeah.
So I want to begin this with a story from an event I actually attended literally yesterday. I was getting a booth demo of it's a operations software that observes an operator on the floor doing an assembly task. So literally, there's a screen in front of them, and the screen tells them what step they're at. And they pick up the correct part. The camera acknowledges that they picked up the correct part. They get a green check mark. It goes to the next stage, follows all the way through. And it's tracking how many parts are left in inventory based on what they're taking. It tracks cycle times. So as I'm doing the demo, somebody says, "Oh, this is running generative AI." I kind of cock an eyebrow at that in turn and ask one of the engineers, "This is running Gen AI?" He says, no, this is running regular AI. And I think that's one of the issues here is this conflation between generative AI and regular AI. So I'm wondering if you can tell me in your terms, speaking as a manufacturer of digital technology, what's the difference between the regular AI we've seen used in machine learning, for visual inspection or algorithms for predictive maintenance? What's the difference between that kind of AI and generative AI specifically?
Yeah. So, so with the topic being, to me, manufacturing shop floor, kind of still in baby steps. The way that I could define the difference is that the regular AI that at least in Schneider we're using in the manufacturing shop floor is based on machine learning, right? That is a portion of classic AI, and it has rigid parameters, right? So we understand very well the topic that we want to accomplish. We provide a set of inputs, right, or constraints to the model. It can be any kind of machine learning algorithm. We get an output, right, and then we supervise the output. So we see if the model is giving us the right answer. So we have, for that, you will have a pretty fine set of good samples and a set of bad samples. And then the model is starting learning based on that. And definitely what is going to happen is that the model is going to ask, okay, this is my score on this sample that you threw into me. And then did I do a good job or not? And then you supervise and say, yes, you did well, or you didn't go well, that you actually classified it wrong. But everything is, in a sense, kind of hard code. While generative AI is something totally, I would say, 100% unsupervised, right? It's predicting based on a set of, I would say, words that you are just throwing to the model, and then it's generating some new content, right? So it's something that is more difficult to do a retrofit to the model. So we are learning throughout the years how this ChatGPT has been created, and that's what separates to me. So one is especially in manufacturing, classic AI machine learning is very supervised model, while the generative AI is something new that we are trying that can generate new content, right? And then that's a big difference. Yeah.
So let me speak to one of these kind of recurring conflations I deal with. Generative design. Conversations about generative design can go back to 2018. It's a very casual search. Or I can think of use cases, practical demonstrations going back to 2020. So is it fair to call generative design generative AI, or is there a difference? And what's the difference? Because Gen AI is new, these things are established. They're old, for lack of a better word. What's the difference between generative design and generative AI? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And then with a limited knowledge on the topic, I would say the difference that I see is that generative design is, I would say, kind of a subdivision of generated AI, right? So for instance, in manufacturing, we deal with a lot of advanced manufacturing, when we try to create new parts or new devices, right? Let's say if I'm doing injection molding, right? So I can tell, the way I would see is like I can give the pieces of an injection mold, right? And then tell how would you arrange it to have a better yield output, right? Wasting less material, right? So that's creating a new model based on input that you're providing to these engines, and it's generating a design. But this could be applied to almost everything. I can also introduce, I'm working in this project, and then here's my SQL code, right? And they say, okay, can you generate me a design of an SQL algorithm that can merge databases and then extract text from there and then do a VLOOKUP table? So in a sense, I would say it is the same, but generative design, right, is we are asking the machine to go and design something for us that we haven't even thought how in a totally different other way, or maybe we are too biased thinking in a way it will generate a design for us and then can get us going from there. Oh wow, I haven't thought this, and then I can even improve my current designs. I don't think it's very feasible yet. Yeah, but I think the pictures are generating, or the designs are generating, as making us think in totally different perspectives to us. I think the human will have to interact a lot still right now, but at least the idea will be there. Yes.
So what I've thought about is, to get back to your earlier point about supervised or unsupervised. As far as I understand, in generative AI, you feed the AI a part design, and then say, we're trying to achieve better efficiency in this aspect of the design, or we want it to be smaller. So the generative AI, it's going with that human input and then making adjustments. So that kind of sounds like similar to supervision, whereas generative design would be, I think, like you said, starting from a vacuum and just giving it very specific parameters for what the part needs to do, but not feeding it a design to start with. Does that sound fair? Does that make sense?
That sounds fair, right? But for any kind of algorithm, you will need an input, right? So the input in this case for generative AI will be, or the set of parameters will be how will you structure the questions to it, right? It's the same thing that I'm saying. You are inputting something. Now, what is going to come out of it, I might not even being able to understand it. So I won't be able to tell you did good or you did bad. So he's predicting something in a totally different way, and he's going to use notes, learning from so many angles and so many sources of information, and he's coming to some weird maybe answer. And then that's what I'm saying, that I don't have the ability to supervise it, what is coming from, because I may not have the current knowledge of understanding what the thing is thinking. So we cannot figure that out. For instance, I'll give you an example. And it was recently. So we need to do a very complex task in SQL, right? And how to match tables, how to sort strip out text of one of the fields within databases, and then convert the information to database into a text file so it can be consumed by another system. So it was almost impossible to do this kind of coding in SQL with the limitations of SQL, because, not to go technical, but in SQL it's very difficult to do for loops. Right, so we asked the engine to develop the query, and it did, and it worked well. Now, what am I saying that the unsupervised is because we, until today, are still trying to figure out how he did it, and it's very complex to the answer that he came with. I just cannot tell that it's the right coding or the wrong coding, but it's giving me the answer. So that's what I meant when I say supervised. In a regular AI supervised model, more or less the input, and already what is going to come out, and then you're going to rate, okay, you did good, you did bad. Yes.
So 2 weeks ago in our last production pulse, we met with some colleagues from other Endeavor Business Media brands, manufacturing related brands, specifically control design and machine design. and we were asking what they're hearing about generative AI. And most of the kind of the pitches they're getting, the use cases they're getting, they're upstream and like assisting with sales communications or updating orders based on information that the system is getting from the floor, the business side of things. But very little that's manufacturing specific. Even Gen AI helping with write code. That's not specific to manufacturing. Lots of different industries could use that. So I'm wondering if you can talk to me about practical demonstrations of Gen AI now that are really happening on the floor, that are undeniably have to do with manufacturing specifically. I know Schneider is doing some of this. I was wondering if you could tell me about what Schneider is doing with Gen AI specifically related to manufacturing.
Yeah, specifically related to manufacturing. But before I go there, right? So I agree with you. So a lot of things are happening upstream. So we are investigating the possibilities, right, with constraints of shortage of materials, efficiency of machines, mean time to repair, mean time between failures, or specific critical equipment. How can you fit this thing here and then maybe spit out a very well developed scheduling plan? So it's not happening by any means, but that's the kind of the idea. How can we complement our digital twins with an AI that will predict in the future? That's the best way that you can plan your shop floor, right? And then produce material. So we're working on that. But yes, you're right. So all the thought process is at the upstream. We have few initiatives, nothing to report yet, but globally, one of our global leaders of smart operations, he just started a project and the concept is like, sometimes manufacturing, or not sometimes, but right now, if you want to compete in this world, your manufacturing has to be very flexible and you got to adapt very quick, right? And then one of the instruments that we use are 6-axis robots, right, on the shop floor. As you may know, if you're experienced, programming 6-axis robots is quite intricate, right? So the code is there, so you have all the instructions. It just takes a lot of time. Sometimes you do it with a pendant on the shop floor, and it's very cumbersome to do it. So the application that we are thinking is to, let's say I have a 3-sequence process right in the manufacturing floor, and then a 6-axis robot is moving the sub-assembly part as it goes through the line. If you want to, let's say I do a line balancing and break down and put a 4-sequence, doing that process requires a lot of planning, a lot of, when we're going to shut down the line. While the project is kind of with generative AI, how can I just speak what I want, put the 3D model of the cell, and then let the AI engine to generate the code, right, for us, and then almost in real time, and then maybe reduce the planning of the project to maybe half an hour. So, okay, let's try. Oh, yeah, I did well. Just tweak it here and there. And then, you have now a 4-sequence that you can do with a robot. So we have that kind of projects in which the idea is that the user doesn't have to be a well versed in the robot coding and have something, I would say, at 80% prototype of code, and then just with a technician tweak it and then go forward and reduce the time to deploy a product in the manufacturing shop floor. That is very important, the uptime of the machine. Yeah. So
you think that's something that might become common in manufacturing? Might that be a standard tool 5-10 years from now? Or who knows, the way things work 1 year from now? Think that'll be a standard tool we see in manufacturing?
I do believe this is going to be a standard tool, and I don't think it's going to be 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be maybe within 6 months to 1 year, we should start seeing something, right? Imagine, so every time that you need to change, because we thought of a robot, right? But PLCs are all over the place. And these things can learn really, really fast. Like I said, without being an expert, I know that it can learn really fast code, and it can cross-correlate code from one platform to another. So almost any PLC, you could also apply the same logic, right? So I need to, let's say, reject parts now in this station, and then can you generate me the code from that? So, and then yes, go recompile it and load it to the PLC. So I believe that there is a lot of potential, and then let's put it within 1 year to 2, it should be a standard. Yes. So.
Wow. Aren't there examples of generative AI being used in like floor operator support, having questions about how to run a machine? Are there any systems like that currently in place? I thought but I'm going to pass this to the expert.
Not in Schneider. We are working also with Amazon Web Services. They have we have a partnership with them, and then they have that application. I have seen it run it. We have not running in our facilities, in which they ask, a chatbot or something, how's the machine doing, or the chatbot can actually sense the level of the material that is using and tell there is a highly possibility that you are going to run out of parts at this time, and triggers an alarm to say, go do something, because otherwise you will shut down production. So I know that there are things already piloted like that. At least to my knowledge, in North America, we have not done it yet. In fact, one of the projects that we are working on is still on the delivery upstream. So we get all the information from this manufacturing shop floor, right, mapped to a centricity data location, in which we have all our lines for the manufacturing shop floors, the plants, and then the clusters of plants. And where's the application going is that we have too many tableaus, right? So Tableau is business intelligence. It started good, right? So we say this is great, but then we developed so much. We have so many tableaus that is almost untractable right now to say which one to open. We are trying to work with a project that it can find trends and actually give you an alarm. You're going to have problems in this product manufacturing because of this and that. So the OEE of the machine is down. You have less headcount today, and then that might impact the time to delivery to the customer. So how can we optimize the tableaus? So that we have our analytics team trying to work with this technology to optimize and finding trends and alarms to the people.
Okay. Yeah. So as much as I hate to feed into the hype cycle, if we could do so specifically with manufacturing, how 5 years from now, say, or actually, again, I just said something might be standard in 5 years, and you said 6 months to a year, so who knows? But in the future, in the near future, what kind of generative AI deployments, again, specific to manufacturing, do you think we might see?
No, definitely. So I do believe that this is a long-term strategy, right? Maybe I was referring to a very specific topic, right? So right now, generative AI, at least in Schneider, and we gotta be careful, right? So because of the sharing sensitive information, we use it for personal productivity, and one of the personal productivity areas is code generation. Mm-hmm. Right. So right now in the upstream that we keep talking, so I can compare MATLAB code to Python code, ask for Python subroutines, ask for SQL queries, right? So all the developers within our analytics tools are using this kind of technology. So now imagine there's another set of coding for industrial, right? So that might use industrial protocols, a PLC programming code with 5 languages, a scripting code, right? A robot code. So I think if we adopt it really fast, mm-hmm. At the upstream, the Pythons, the MATLABs, the R, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of time, and we go to the manufacturing shop floor and start introducing this kind of languages. And that's what I meant, that you can go like in maybe a year or two to also adopting. We say, okay, this is working. These things are helping us to be more productive, right? To developing code, to troubleshoot code. Now let's do it at the manufacturing shop floor with languages that are used in the shop floor.
Very cool.
That's what.
That's the time we have for today. I'd like again to thank Mauricio Casares, Smart Factory Improvement Manager at Schneider Electric's plant in Lexington, Kentucky. My name is Dennis Semeka, Senior Editor for Technology at IndustryWeek, and please join us in 2 weeks for our next Production Pulse broadcast. Mauricio, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. It was a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Great.